There is a tradition in Russian long-range aviation that predates the current government, predates the government before that, and in some form predates the Soviet Union itself. It is the tradition of the long patrol, the extended flight over contested or observed airspace, slow, deliberate, and visible, designed to communicate endurance and presence to anyone watching the radar screens below. The Tu-142 Bear is the aircraft that embodies this tradition most completely. It is a turboprop maritime patrol and strike aircraft that has been flying these missions since 1972, which means it entered service when the United States was still conducting combat operations in Vietnam, and the most advanced personal computing device available to a civilian was a programmable pocket calculator. The Bear is not fast. It is not stealthy. It is not, by any reasonable definition, surprising. What it is present. It appears on the radar, it flies its route, and it communicates through the simple act of being there that Russian long-range aviation can reach wherever it chooses to reach. This communication has been the aircraft's primary strategic function for 52 years, and it remains the primary strategic function today, which tells you something about either the enduring relevance of the mission or the pace of change in Russian military modernization. Possibly both. The specific Bear that departs Olenya Air Base in the Kola Peninsula at 8:14 on a Tuesday morning in October is a Tu-142 MK, the maritime reconnaissance and anti-submarine variant. It carries a crew of 11. It is powered by 4 Kuznetsov NK-12MV turboprop engines, the most powerful turboprop engines ever put into regular production, generating a sound signature at cruise power that experienced NATO aircrew describe as somewhere between a freight train and a very large and angry lawnmower. The sound is audible from considerable distances. This is not a design flaw. Nobody has ever confused a Tu-142 with a stealth aircraft, and the Kuznetsov NK-12MV is not trying to be confused with anything quiet. The aircraft departs Olenya, climbs to cruise altitude, and turns northwest over the Barents Sea, beginning the long arc that will take it south and west toward the Norwegian Sea, where USS Gerald R. Ford, CVN-78, the lead ship of the United States Navy's newest and most capable carrier class, is conducting flight operations approximately 340 nautical miles northeast of the Shetland Islands. Ford knows the Bear is coming. The E-2D Advanced Hawkeye, orbiting at altitude northeast of the strike group, detected the Tu-142's departure from Olenya via its APY-9 radar at 08:31, which is to say 17 minutes after the aircraft lifted off, which is to say there was no moment in this transit during which the U.S. Navy did not know where the Bear was, what it was doing, or where it was going. The tracking is continuous, precise, and entirely without drama. The picture on the Hawkeye cruise displays shows a single large turboprop track proceeding on a predictable course toward a predictable intercept with the strike group's operating area, in exactly the manner that Tu-142s have been proceeding on predictable courses toward predictable intercepts with NATO naval forces for the better part of 5 decades. The intercept will happen. The intercept will be managed. 2 FA-18 F Super Hornets from the strike group's carrier air wing will be launched to meet the Bear, escort it through the operating area, document it thoroughly, and watch it complete its transit. This is the procedure. The procedure exists because this has happened before, many times, and the procedure works. The complication, and there is always a complication, which is what separates a training scenario from an operational one, arrives at 0902, which is 48 minutes after the Bear's departure was detected and approximately 90 minutes before the aircraft will reach the strike group's operating area. At 9:02, the number 2 catapult on USS Gerald R. Ford's flight deck develops a fault indication in its advanced arresting gear interface. This is not a catastrophic failure. It is a fault indication, which means the system has detected a condition outside its normal operating parameters and has flagged it for inspection before the next launch cycle. The catapult itself is functional. The fault is in the interface electronics. But the procedure for a fault indication in this system requires a maintenance inspection before the catapult can be certified for the next cycle, and the maintenance inspection takes approximately 45 minutes. This is inconvenient in the specific way that carrier aviation inconveniences are always inconvenient. The timing. USS Gerald R. Ford operates 4 catapults. Losing one catapult reduces the flight deck's launch rate by approximately 25%, which on a normal flight day is a manageable degradation that the air operations team absorbs into the schedule with the practiced flexibility of people who have been doing this for years. On a normal flight day, the current flight day, as of 9:02, has the following picture. The 2 FA-18F Super Hornets, designated for the Bear intercept, are spotted on the bow catapults, catapults 1 and 2. Catapult 2 has a fault indication. The intercept aircraft assigned to Cat 2 cannot be launched until the inspection is complete. The Bear is 90 minutes out. The inspection takes 45 minutes. The math is uncomfortable in the specific way that carrier math gets uncomfortable when the variables are all moving in the same direction at once. The air boss sees the fault indication at 0902. He reports it to the commanding officer. The commanding officer looks at the intercept timeline. He looks at the catapult status. He calls the catapult officer and asks the question that the catapult officer has already been asked by himself and has already begun answering. Can the inspection be compressed? The catapult officer's answer is precise and professional. The inspection can be completed in 30 minutes if the maintenance team prioritizes it immediately and is not interrupted. The commanding officer tells the catapult officer to prioritize it immediately. He tells the air boss to prepare to launch the catapult, one aircraft on a single aircraft intercept if the Cat 2 inspection is not complete by 0945, with the second aircraft to follow as soon as the Cat 2 certification is done. The air boss acknowledges. The catapult maintenance team begins its inspection. The Bear is now 76 minutes out. The vulnerability window is this. For 30 minutes, the strike group's immediate intercept response is reduced to a single F/A 18F rather than 2. Not because the second aircraft is broken or unavailable. It is fully armed, fully fueled, and sitting on a functional catapult. Because a fault indication in an interface circuit, detected by a system designed to catch exactly these conditions before they become actual failures, has created a gap in the timeline that the Tu-142 crew does not know about and would find professionally interesting if they did. A single aircraft intercept of a Tu-142 is not a crisis. The Navy has procedures for it. The F/A 18F is faster, more maneuverable, and better equipped in every relevant dimension than the aircraft it would be escorting. But 2 aircraft is the standard, and 2 aircraft is what the procedure calls for. And for 30 minutes this morning, the strike group is running at 1. This is the kind of window that operational planning staffs note in after-action reviews and use to refine maintenance scheduling protocols. It is not comfortable. It is real. The catapult inspection completes at 9:33, 27 minutes, 3 minutes faster than the compressed estimate. The catapult officer certifies the interface electronics as functioning within parameters. The fault indication was a sensor anomaly, not an actual fault condition. The catapult is fully operational. The air boss receives the certification at 9:33. He reports to the commanding officer. The commanding officer acknowledges. "Launch both," he says. Both aircraft are on the catapults. The intercept timeline is back to the standard 2 aircraft profile. The Bear is 54 minutes out. The first F/A 18F leaves the bow catapult at 0935. The second follows at 937. They climb to intercept altitude and accelerate northwest toward the Tu-142's track, which the E-2D has been maintaining continuously since 0831, and which has been unremarkably stable. The Bear is flying its planned route. It does not know about the catapult fault indication It does not know about the compressed inspection. It does not know about the 30-minute single aircraft window that closed 22 minutes ago. It knows only what its own sensors are telling it, which is a surface radar picture of a carrier strike group approximately 40 nautical miles ahead, and an electromagnetic environment that is, by any honest assessment, extremely busy. Let us discuss the electromagnetic environment of a carrier strike group operating in the Norwegian Sea, because it is relevant to understanding what the Tu-142 crew is experiencing as they close to their observation distance, and because the mismatch between what the bear can do to that environment and what the environment can do to the bear is the kind of technical contrast that this story is built to illuminate. The Tu-142 MK carries the Barents 95 surface search radar, a Soviet-era system designed to detect large surface contacts at distances useful for maritime patrol purposes. It is a capable system for its era and its mission, and against commercial shipping or surfaced submarines in open ocean, it performs the function it was designed to perform. Against a carrier strike group's electronic warfare suite, the Barents 95 is emitting a signal that is as distinctive, as well characterized, and as precisely cataloged as any radar signal in the NATO threat library. The moment the Tu-142 activates its Barents 95 for a surface search sweep, which it does at 0952, when the aircraft is 48 nautical miles from the strike group and the crew wants a current surface picture. The SLQ-32 electronic warfare suites aboard USS Gerald R. Ford and her escorts acquire the emission, match it against the threat library in under 2 seconds, and add a precisely time-stamped, precisely measured data point to the morning's collection record. The sweep frequency, the pulse repetition interval, the scan rate, the power level, all of it, logged to a standard of precision that requires the target to be operating its equipment at relatively close range in a manner it cannot conceal, because the Barents 95 does not have an emissions control mode. It transmits when it operates. Operating it tells the strike group exactly what it is doing. The Tu-142 crew is aware of this in the abstract and has accepted it as the cost of doing the job. The job requires the radar. The radar tells the adversary it is being used. This is the operational reality of flying a 50-year-old reconnaissance aircraft against a carrier strike group, equipped with equipment that was designed specifically to exploit exactly this situation. The communications picture is equally educational. The Tu-142 maintains a continuous communications link with its command authority at Severomorsk throughout the transit, reporting position, fuel state, the surface contact picture, and, once the FA-18Fs arrive, the intercept status. These communications are encrypted on a Russian military communications system that presents a non-trivial collection challenge for real-time content exploitation, which is to say, the SLQ-32 and the strike group's signals intelligence assets cannot read the messages. What they can do is log the frequency, the encryption mode, the signal architecture, the burst timing, and the power level, all of which are consistent with the known profile of the communications system used by Russian long-range maritime patrol aviation, and all of which add precision to the existing signals intelligence picture on that system. Every transmission the Tu-142 sends to Severomorsk is a data point. The data points accumulate. The picture becomes more detailed. The picture is already quite detailed from previous collections. Today's contribution refines it further in the specific way that close-range direct collection refines things that distant collection can only approximate. The F/A-18Fs reach the Tu-142 at 10:04. The intercept is textbook. The lead aircraft approaches from the Bear's port quarter, climbing through the aircraft's altitude and positioning itself off the left wing at approximately 150 feet separation. The wingman takes the starboard side. The Tu-142 crew, who have been tracking the inbound fighters on their own systems since the FA-18Fs climbed off the catapults 43 minutes ago, do not react to the intercept with any visible change in flight profile. They continue on their planned heading, at their planned altitude, at their planned speed, which is approximately 440 knots, a speed that requires the F/A-18F pilots to manage their throttles with some care, because 440 knots is well below the Super Hornet's comfortable cruise speed, and maintaining close formation at 440 knots while fully armed requires a degree of throttle management discipline that the pilots execute with the practiced ease of people who have done this specific exercise many times. The lead pilot looks across the 150 feet of Norwegian Sea air at the Tu-142. The aircraft is enormous close up, nearly 60 meters of wingspan, 4 turboprop engines turning at the specific RPM that produces the NK-12MV's characteristic sound, the Soviet-era Red Star roundel on the fuselage catching the October morning light. The Bear's flight engineer is visible in his station window looking back. The lead pilot does not wave. She gives the Bear crew what the intercept procedure calls for. Professional acknowledgement that the intercept has occurred, maintained position, documentation, running on the aircraft's recording systems. This is not a social occasion. It is a professional one, conducted at 440 knots over the Norwegian Sea at 10:04 on a Tuesday morning, and it is conducted with the specific impersonal competence that NATO intercept procedures have refined over decades of doing exactly this. The Tu-142 crew, for their part, are doing what Tu-142 crews do on these transits: maintaining course, operating their sensors, passing data back to Severomorsk, and professionally noting the presence of the two F/A-18Fs that are now positioned off both wings with an air of casual authority that the Bear crew has seen before and will see again. They know the intercept will happen. It always happens. The FA-18Fs will escort them through the operating area, document them, and break off when they clear the strike group's defensive zone. This is the rhythm of these encounters. It has been the rhythm for decades. The Bear crew does not find the FA-18Fs alarming. They find them professionally present, which is the correct assessment. What the Bear crew cannot observe: the complete electromagnetic picture the strike group is building from their transit. The Berkut 95 sweep, logged at 0952, has been incorporated into the threat library update that the electronic warfare officer aboard Ford is already drafting. The navigation, radar emissions from the Tu-142's approach, logged continuously from 8:31 onward, have produced a positional, track accuracy assessment for the Bear's own navigation system that will interest the people who maintain the joint intelligence picture on Russian long-range aviation navigation capability. The communications frequency usage during the 2 hours of transit, with its precise burst timing and signal architecture, has added resolution to the signals intelligence picture on the Severomorsk command and control communications protocol. All of this is going into a collection package that the electronic warfare officer estimates will run to 23 pages in final form and will be distributed before the Tu-142 lands back at Olenya. The Berkut is running on the expected frequency, the electronic warfare officer notes, reviewing the 0952 collection. But the pulse repetition interval is slightly faster than our last direct measurement. Could be a software update, could be an operator setting. He marks the variance. I am logging it as a potential modification indicator. The variance is 3%. 3% is small. 3% on a system the intelligence community has been assessing for decades is not nothing. It goes in the report as a qualifier. The analyst who reads the report will cross-reference it against other recent Tu-142 collection and make a determination. This is how the picture gets built. Not in dramatic revelations, but in incremental refinements. 3% at a time, one transit at a time, each Bear flight adding a layer that the previous one did not. On the flight deck of USS Gerald R. Ford, the catapult crew has returned to normal operations. The catapult officer is completing his post-inspection entry. The fault indication that triggered the inspection was a sensor anomaly in the interface electronics, a component that has been in service for 18 months and is scheduled for replacement at the next maintenance availability. The officer notes the anomaly, the inspection, the timeline, and the certification outcome in the maintenance record. The maintenance record goes into the ship's official documentation. It will be reviewed at the next maintenance conference. The sensor component will be replaced on schedule. The catapult will continue performing its function. This is how carrier aviation works. The system catches the fault before the fault becomes the problem. The inspection confirms it is manageable. The schedule accommodates the repair. The 30-minute window when the strike group was running a single aircraft intercept posture was an inconvenience. It was not a crisis. It was not close to a crisis. It was a maintenance data point that will improve the next maintenance cycle's planning. The Bear does not know any of this happened. The Tu-142 is over the strike group's operating area from 10:04 until 10:39, when its planned track takes it east and then northeast toward the return leg. The Bear crew gets their observation time. The Barents 95 paints the surface contacts. The communications link to Severomorsk continues. The FA-18Fs maintain their escort positions without deviation. The recording systems are running on both aircraft. The Tu-142's external configuration, antenna placement, and observable equipment are being documented in the manner that NATO intercept procedures call for and that produces the kind of photographic record that defense intelligence analysts use to track modifications to known aircraft over time. The October light over the Norwegian Sea is good. The photographs will be clear. At 10:39, the F/A-18Fs observe the Bear turn to its return heading and escort it to the edge of the strike group's defensive zone at 10:44. They break off. The Tu-142 continues northeast. The pilots reverse course and return to the pattern for recovery. They land aboard Ford at 11:02. Their debrief takes 45 minutes and covers the intercept geometry, the aircraft's observable configuration, the behavior of the crew, and the flight characteristics observed during the close escort. The debrief is thorough. It produces 12 pages of notes that go to the intelligence shop for incorporation into the broader picture. The collection package from the electronic warfare officer is formatted and transmitted at 11:17, while the debrief is still running. 23 pages as estimated. The Barents 95 pulse repetition interval variance goes in as a modification indicator with medium confidence. The navigation track accuracy assessment goes in as an update to the existing picture on Tu-142 navigation performance. The communications burst timing goes in as a precision refinement of the Severomorsk command link signal architecture. The package goes to Navarre, to the intelligence community's Russian aviation programs, and via established channels, to the intelligence directorates of 4 allied nations operating in the Norwegian Sea theater, who will find specific value in the close-range collection data. Now let us discuss what Russian media said happened. Because Russian strategic communications about these encounters follows a pattern that is itself informative about the intent behind the missions. The Russian Ministry of Defense releases a statement at 14:30 Moscow time, describing a routine patrol flight over the Norwegian Sea, conducted in strict compliance with international aviation law. It notes that foreign military aircraft accompanied the Russian aircraft during portions of the flight. It does not describe the accompaniment as an intercept, because describing it as an intercept implies the Russian aircraft needed to be intercepted. The language is careful. The purpose is clear. The flight happened, it was routine, everything was lawful. All of this is accurate. None of it includes the part where the Barents 95 pulse repetition interval is now in the NATO threat library as a potential modification indicator with a precise direct measurement timestamp. The Russian state media coverage that follows the ministry statement adds the detail that the American carrier strike group in the area was closely observed during the patrol, which is the Russian media description of what happened, and which is accurate in the way that being observed by a system that has been documenting your aircraft for 52 years while simultaneously documenting the observing aircraft can be described as being closely observed. Both sides were closely observing each other. One side has a 52-year head start on the specific aircraft type in question. The intelligence gap is not being closed by one Tuesday morning patrol flight. The Tuesday morning patrol flight is adding one more layer to a picture that will be there next time, and the time after that. Aboard USS Geraldar. Forward, the flight deck is into the afternoon cycle. The catapult crew is running normal operations. The catapult officer's maintenance record note is in the official documentation. The F/A-18F pilots who flew the intercept are eating lunch in the wardroom, finishing their debrief notes and not particularly thinking about the morning's mission in any frame other than professional routine. It was an intercept. They do them. The bear was where they expected it to be, did what they expected it to do, and went home on schedule. The documentation is complete. The collection package is transmitted. The catapult is operational. The electronic warfare officer is on his second cup of coffee since the collection package went out. He is reviewing the 3% pulse repetition interval variance one more time, cross-referencing it against the three most recent Tu-142 intercept collection records in his files. The variance appears in one of the three. The same aircraft, or a different one with the same modification, flew past the USS Harry S. Truman strike group in the Barents Sea 11 months ago. The electronic warfare officer notes the correlation. He adds a supplemental entry to the collection package. The supplemental entry is 2 paragraphs. The 2 paragraphs will interest the analyst who maintains the modification tracking file considerably. This is the part of the intelligence work that is not dramatic and is not visible, and is not the story that anyone outside a classified reading room ever reads. It is also, in the long accounting of what these missions produce for both sides, the part that matters most. The Tu-142 lands at Olenya at 14:52. The crew debrief at Severomorsk is thorough. The surface picture of the Ford strike group is useful. The photographs are good. The patrol was routine in the way that productive patrols are routine. The crew performed the mission as briefed and returned the aircraft safely, which is, for a Tu-142 in its current service year, an outcome that the maintenance team at Olenya does not entirely take for granted. The engines ran. The systems operated. The bear came home. The mission log entry will be written, filed, and added to the running record of Norwegian Sea surveillance operations. The entry will note that 2 American fighters escorted the aircraft through the operating area, that the carrier group was observed at close range, and that the patrol was completed without incident. All of this is accurate. The pulse repetition interval variance will not appear in the mission log entry because the crew does not know the SLQ-32 measured it. The supplemental collection report addendum, 2 paragraphs, in an intelligence database in Norfolk, Virginia, knows the Norwegian Sea is gray and cold this afternoon. It is always gray and cold in October. The carrier strike group is continuing its operations. The E-2D is orbiting. The Aegis radars are conducting their sky searches. The coffee in the Ford's Combat Information Center is from a fresh pot because the afternoon watch supervisor has been briefed about the morning's catapult situation and has decided, with the situational awareness that good watch supervisors develop, that this afternoon's watch deserves better coffee than the morning watch received. He is not wrong. The coffee is good. The sky search continues. The Norwegian Sea, this afternoon, offers no new contacts from the direction of Olenya. It will, eventually. It always does. And the SLQ-32 will be ready when it does. Bye for now.